I was just conditioned to a life on the street. I didn't know any other way to be. Everything was hand to mouth. I didn't let anybody close to me. I was never in a non-artificially produced state. I was always under the influence of something, always.
It just continually spiraled. I was at the very bottom of feeling very hopeless.
My name's Scott, married to Shannon. She's really the rock of our family.
I met him at a bar. He already was well into his addiction.
I was really kind of at the worst point of my illness.
I'd had experience with addiction because my brother, but I didn't understand it the way that I do now.
And she got pregnant.
And then I had Dev.
So, I'm gonna do the right thing and be responsible for the child. I knew what that meant, but I wasn't capable of doing that. I have 3 stepchildren.
Braden is my oldest, and then Benjamin and Jared.
My biological daughter, Devlin. We got an apartment, and I got a job, and I functioned like I got to work most of the time. I made money. Pretty much all I did was give her my paycheck every week, because other than that, I don't know how much more I was capable of.
And on the weekends, it was just mainly just drinking all day and then going to bed and then waking up and doing the same thing over again.
Well, Braden left young because she couldn't deal with the weekend shenanigans.
She was a senior in high school when she moved out because she couldn't take the situation in the house anymore.
So a lot of drinking, a lot of drug use, a lot of fighting.
The kids would come over and then they would see all of that, and it just was, it wasn't really a great atmosphere for any of them to be in.
So she left. She knew enough to know she didn't want to be around that, so she left.
And then there's Dev. I mean, she was just little, 2-3 years old. She had no clue what was going on.
And that went on for years until it just progressed, as the illness does, to a place to where I was so sick that I was blacking out, days at a time. Entire weeks were just gone. I would essentially come to and not remember anything.
It was miserable for him. It was miserable for me. My kids were sad all the time.
I can remember coming back to the apartment one night, laying down and getting ready to go to bed, and I was fairly wasted. And just sort of saying to her, I don't think I can ever change.
I was like, something has to happen. We can't continue like this. One of us is either going to end up really sick or hurt. Addiction doesn't discriminate, and it certainly doesn't care who you are, and sometimes the end result is death, but not all the time, and it doesn't have to be that way.
My dad got in a fight with my neighbor, and I was only probably 4 years old.
It was snowing like crazy.
A lot of snow. So we were stuck in the house.
And it was in the living room.
And I was just a wreck.
And he hit him a few times. All I remember is there was a lot of blood. There was a lot of alcohol, obviously. They were both drunk.
And eventually the cops came, and they told him that he had to settle down.
I had been to jail many, many times. And I think at that point, I had essentially given up. So I just didn't care anymore.
I just remember my mom holding my head against her chest, covering my ears. And then they took my dad.
He went to jail, and he was in there for a couple months. And when he got out, he had to get another place to live because he couldn't come back to the house.
Children and youth wouldn't let me see my child. I was supposed to stay, I think it was a quarter mile. I couldn't come anywhere near them. That's kind of where my recovery sort of started. I wasn't done using yet, but that's sort of where the process of change started for me. Because one of the times I went to the hospital and one of the doctors slipped a brochure in my pocket for a local drug and alcohol treatment center. And I went home and it got deposited on the top of my refrigerator. And it sat there for weeks and weeks. And one night I went out and I had no money. I didn't even have money to call Devlin. You know, I literally didn't have quarters to do that. I was in a fight and I came home and I was just all beaten up and I just gave up. And I remembered I had that brochure and I called the number, not knowing what to expect. And they said, well, we want you to sleep it off and we'll call you in the morning. And I hung up and passed out. And they were there for me the next morning with the van and said, if you want to change your life, get in. And I got in. I spent 34 days in White Deer Run, Lancaster. And, you know, over time, I eventually was allowed back into my family's life because I was sober. Had a lot of stuff to unwind and unpack, but I was sober.
To be completely honest, I didn't even know what he was going to be like because I never knew Scott sober. The first 2 years after he was home were really hard for both of us because we were still trying to figure out who we were and getting to know each other. I mean, we really were just getting to know each other all over again.
Shannon's probably the most self-sacrificing person I've ever met. And she does it in a quiet way. She understood enough to know that I couldn't focus on anything other than staying sober. And so she said, I don't want you to do anything. I want you to stay here. I don't want you to worry about work. I don't want you to worry about, you just do what you have to do and get well. And so she gave me that space to do that. That was a process of a couple years until I got to a place where I felt more comfortable in my skin. Devlin was very scared because she was afraid I was going to go back to what I had been before.
When Scott came back to the house, she was 4.
Because children know something's wrong with daddy. Daddy's not okay. I mean, children can sense that. A lot of children don't understand other than mommy or daddy is sick. And that's sort of how it gets explained to children a lot, especially when maybe they go away to treatment or they're living in a recovery house for 6 or 8 months.
She really was just starting to understand what was going on. And then as she was in school, he was home with her when she started school and he was able to stay home with her.
He got sober for me and for my mother and for his family. So he took time out of his day to play with me and hang out with me and just be a dad. And that's why we're so close now.
You can't be there for your children when you aren't capable of being a whole person.
Them having that bond, that really helped her understand that her dad was still her dad and he was sick, but he was getting better.
Hope and purpose are very important parts of recovery. So when you first come in from treatment, you probably are a little unsteady. You don't have a lot of the resources. You don't have the education or the understanding in terms of what's going on. So you don't have a lot of hope or purpose. And as you develop these things and you grow and you heal, you start to see yourself succeeding, especially out in the community. You start to believe and you start to see yourself achieving and you start to develop hope. And then that creates momentum. You practice living in a sober world. You practice learning how to cope and how to live life on life's terms. And eventually you become a whole person that's able to be there more for the family and the kids.
Scott, newly in recovery, is trying to figure out his way. And then Braden had already left the house and she was living with her boyfriend at the time. We kind of knew there was like partying going on and they were high school kids. So it was like we kind of just chalked it up to it was just them, having fun and doing whatever. But then we really didn't realize how bad it was until her boyfriend passed away. So that was kind of like a real eye-opener. So not only were we dealing with Scott's recovery and all of that, how were we going to handle and how were we going to cope with Braden and help her too?
I'm pretty sure I remember my mom saying, you know, she's sick like Daddy. She's sick, but she's gonna get better like Daddy did, and she's gonna get better. She's gonna be okay. She tried going to rehab, and she came back and just went right back to her old patterns. I think recovery is a very long process, and I think what people seem to think is that, you know, progress is more like a straight line when it's really not. It's gonna be up and down, and it's gonna be mountains and hills and lots of climbing, and, you know, people tend to want to give up after the first mountain, but you can't.
And then she got pregnant. And at that time, we knew she was using, so it was hard to watch. And then when she had Tyler, I was there when he was born, and I just remember thinking, thank God he's alive. No, she didn't stop using then. 3 months after he was born, her boyfriend had sold something to somebody who died, and they ended up getting arrested, and so that's when Tyler and Braden came to live with me.
What? What are you doing? Hey.
Because I knew that she loved that child. I knew she loved him, and I knew she cared about him. She was just sick, and she just needed to be able to see that. She didn't have any hope. She was kind of where Scott was. But then when she had her child, it was like, you do have something. You have something right in front of you.
I mean, when she went to rehab after she had Tyler and she came back a whole new person, she stuck to her sobriety. Everything was getting better, and we were all happy, and we were all in one house, and Tyler didn't have any problems, and he was growing up perfectly. And then the car accident happened.
I mean, she was hit head on, had high speed. She wasn't wearing a seatbelt. She had major head trauma. She had brain swelling. Shannon went to Braden, and I went to Tyler in the ER because they both went to separate hospitals.
I just remember going in the room, and he was like, I want mommy, and it just broke my heart, because what are we supposed to say? The doctors seriously were saying that they didn't think she was going to wake up. And then she did.
When I was using, it was just to use, that's it. There wasn't like no attachment, no connection to anything else. When the addiction came around, it was like nothing else mattered. It was pretty much, I was just waking up and figuring out how I was gonna get high that day or get money that day. I have a responsibility to take care of another human when I couldn't even take care of myself. I said, I need to go to a rehab. So I have been sober now for 5 years. Without recovery, I would not be spending all of this time with my family. I wouldn't be able to talk to my family about everything and everything I need to. They're always there. I wouldn't have the support and the love from them, and even my friends too, having them right by my side to be there for me. I have it all.
Hello.
Having my son, it's amazing, because in the beginning I was not there with him to support him and be there for him and love him 24/7. I was focused a lot on my recovery, but now that I have way more time of sobriety, all of my love and focus and attention can go to him and all of the things that he needs from a sober mom. and he needs it. He's needed it the whole time, and now he has every second of it. So knowing that I am here fully aware and available for anything and everything they need me for, that's what I love the most about it, because I was not that before.
I'm so thankful and blessed that she's still here today, because I swear I thought we lost her. I remember one day she said, I don't know where I would be without your dad and mom. Like, I just don't.
My mom has done more than anyone ever in my life has ever done for me. And no matter what she goes through, she's still always right there by my side. Whenever I need anything or just need to talk to somebody, no matter what personal things that she has going on with her, she's still always there for me and my brothers and my sisters. She is the reason I'm still here, for sure.
I think about all the friends and family that I've lost. This is my brother. He just passed away last year. He has had a long journey with addiction. Started right outside of high school, and he was 44 when he passed. He had been at Teen Challenge for several years, so he was doing really well. But unfortunately, a life of addiction doesn't do well to your body physically, so he ended up passing away way too young. Death doesn't have to be the inevitable result. And so I think finding a healthy pathway to recovery is beneficial for everyone, for families, for the person themselves and communities, everything.
Recovery has been part of my journey. So I've had a front row seat as a patient, as an inmate, as a client, and now I'm on the other side of that as a peer mentor, as a provider, as a coach, as a CRS, as a professional.
All right.
They need people in there that have been there and done that can show them that everything you're experiencing is totally normal and it's not abnormal, and you just need to keep moving forward. This is Recovery Day Lancaster. It's a celebration for people in recovery in Lancaster County and their families.
The minute he walked out of his recovery house, when he first entered recovery, he decided that he wanted to give back and do something for the community. And Recovery Day has been growing ever since then. So it's very huge for him. It's a big part of his life.
To me, this day means that I get together with my family and celebrate all of us who are in recovery.
And this is an excellent opportunity when we put all these vendors in here with all this information and all this outreach for people to come out and understand that there's support and health and different ways, because the tendency is to isolate. It encourages togetherness and unity. We do together what we can't do alone. And it means everything to me. It's my family, but these folks here too are like my family as well. I mean, we're all intertwined together like that.
It's just a really nice day to just kind of get together and enjoy life.
We gotta link up.
When people think about recovery, they think about it's just someone not using. And that's not what it is. It's about giving back in your life and doing things that you wouldn't be able to do if you were using.
I'm still growing and I'm still alive as a man in recovery. Sometimes with the stuff you carry, it takes a long time to put it down.
He's my biggest inspiration. I think he's done really good over the years with trying to get out the message that recovery is important, and it is going to be hard, but it is something you can do.
The future for our family is, it could be anything. I never imagined we would be here.
At the end of the day, I'm who I am, Brayden's who she is. We're all who we are. We're all individually working on ourselves, but we're always a family, and that's the only constant. Everything else can come and go, but my family will always be my family, and we always will be a family, no matter what.